The year is 2025. It has been 1 year since our last Hunted preview. Well, no, I mean, our last Hunted preview was last year. Technically, okay, the actual last one was last night, and we're going to talk about it. But before then, the last Hunted preview was last year, and some people on the internet got a bit frustrated with it. So I guess the topic for questions today is how the hell do you handle a pre-release preview season over Christmas? Because LSS have to go on holiday, right? And no one's asking them not to. So how do you handle a preview season with building hype over Christmas? Because that's what people have essentially been complaining about. I've seen a few people complaining about it, was that we got these previews, the Arachne previews, and some previews over Twitter. And in between that happening, before Christmas, with the previews of the new Arachnes, there was then nothing for about 2 weeks until preview season started again yesterday. And they were kind of like, well, I'm not that excited about the set anymore because the hype's kind of died off and we haven't seen anything in a while. And I guess the big question is, will it come back? Are people getting hyped again with new previews that have come out? And I think the answer is yes. So I think anyone's initial reaction where they're like, oh, I'm not interested anymore, it's just a bit of a mild disturbance, rather than anything actually particularly problematic. Like, you have to build hype for the world premiere of the set. When you start selling tickets for that set, you have to start giving out, some idea of what people are going to get at those events. You have to start advertising it. You have to start telling people what's going to happen at the world premiere. You have to start showing off some of the art, like Fealty, gorgeous art of the Dragon, amazing as well. Ninja's the best. But you have to start showing off some of those. You can't not show them off. Otherwise, people won't buy tickets for your world premiere, which you need people to buy tickets for. This is sold out, by the way, so it obviously worked. But you can understand the gap, like, frustrating some people. They want to see more cards faster, and they want to know what's happening, which is fair. I mean, it is fair. It's never incorrect to say, hey, I'm a bit disappointed. Hey, I'm not feeling as excited as I could. But, it's probably also fair to take a Christmas break and to not spoil all of the cards for the set before, because ultimately LSS is trying to solve a delicate balance problem, which they have failed at in the past. And that problem is that if you release too many cards on, before the set comes out, then the very, very smart, very, very dedicated testers of the game who play umpteen amounts of games a month, a week, a day, go and they play with those cards on the internet and they solve the meta decks weeks before the cards are even available in paper. And that creates a drastic gulf, which arguably exists already, between people who play online a lot and people who don't. Because theoretically, if you have someone who plays online and someone who doesn't, and they both get the cards on the same day, aka when the set releases or when they go to their preview or their pre-release, those two people could test the same amount in paper or online and arrive at a similar level of deck for a tournament. But if you release all the cards beforehand, then that deck will be finished long before by the people who are playing online, before the cards have even been released into the hands of people who are playing with physical cards in paper. And you really can't have that, because the mechanisms for building decks and testing decks have gotten quite advanced with the testing teams, and they know what a good fab deck looks like. So, I had people messaging me 2 weeks before the physical release of Part the Mistveil, for example, saying this is the deck, this is cracked, this deck is already broken. And then a week later it was like, okay, we found the counter to that deck, this is the best deck. That was well going on long before physical cards actually hit our hands. And the only thing that really stymied that process was the release of Traverse the Universe, right? Before that was spoiled, A lot of people were like, well, Zen is good, but he's not that consistent, and he can high roll, but he's not that reliable, and you'll just get blown out of the water by KO, for example, one of the things that was being kicked around. And then after Traverse the Universe was spoiled, everyone was like, Zen is amazing, he's not going to lose, he can never lose, this is crazy, it's just whether you're the Zen winning on turn 1 or the Zen winning on turn 2. The game doesn't go to turn 3, right? So that was what came out of all that testing. And then the decision was made with Rosetta. And this wasn't a problem before because the teams weren't in place and the mechanisms weren't in place to test that quickly. And we also didn't get the previews fully spoiled as far in as advanced. For some reason, for Mistveil, we actually got them. I think it was because Japan happened quite early. We got them a lot earlier than we normally would have. So then before the pre-release happened, we already knew all these cards. And then that didn't happen for Rosetta because they deliberately kept a decent chunk of cards back, which was the correct decision in my opinion. But it did dampen hype for the set a little bit because people didn't really know what they were getting. And what I'm kind of trying to say is that there is a sweet spot point. And for me personally, it's legendaries, right? I think you could spoil every card in the set except legendaries. And doing that would actually build plenty of hype for the class without revealing exactly how each class works. So, for example, you've got Syndra kicking around, right? And you know how she works as a ninja. You've seen her weapon. We've seen her weapon. Now we'll talk about that in a minute. And you're able to sort of look at that and say, okay, I have a good idea of how this class works. But you're not actually able to fully see the power level of the class until you get to that majestic, right? And I think that legendary. I think that's a very important place to draw a line. So what if, 1 week, 2 weeks before the set releases, all of the majestics and the commons and uncommons are all spoiled, just like they are with this spoiler preview season, but the legendaries are kept for the very, very final, only coming out at the world premiere if people open them. And people will open them because so many packs are being opened, but maybe they won't. And if they didn't for some reason, then, people wouldn't open them. And people thought that the alt art Rosetta Thorn was a fake, for example, for a while until it was confirmed that it did exist because the pull rate was really low. And now that card is worth hundreds of pounds, and it's very nice. And I don't own one, which makes me sad on a regular basis. But that's okay. The point, I guess, is just trying to figure out where that fine line is. And also, January makes it especially difficult because that December to January period where LSS also want to take a Christmas holiday and I guess go to the beach or whatever it is people do in New Zealand. According to my New Zealand friend who lives in where does he live? Is it Auckland? The correct answer of what to do on a Christmas day is to build a slip and slide for the your relatives' kids, and then have a big barbecue in the garden, drink some beer while they play on the slip and slide. So if you're from New Zealand and that's your tradition as well, then let me know. If you've got another tradition, let me know. I can't imagine having a sunny Christmas. I was, for my Christmas, in a 40-mile-an-hour wind storm with gusts up to 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, I should say, even on the West Irish coast. I did not see sunlight for 4 days as it was stormy and overcast with really low fog, and the wind blew me back inside. I went out to walk the dogs for a bit but didn't go too far because it was really, you'd get blown over in that wind. Summer Christmas could be nice. Maybe I need to go to New Zealand next year for Christmas. That would be really nice. But the point is, they have to take a break. You have to build hype. I think we don't have this problem for anything else except for the first set of the year when, they need to build preview hype for the world premiere, and then they need to take a break. I don't think it's appropriate to spoil all the cards that far in advance of the world premiere. I think it does make sense to take a break and, spoil a little bit so people can book their tickets and see if it's something they want to get into, but not spoil everything. And I think this is the cadence that we should expect going forwards, I would say. I wouldn't expect us to have any other sort of cadence going forwards. I fully expect us to have classes revealed when the world premiere is announced, a few of the promos and the special cards from the set announced, and then to have a cooling off period leading up to 2 to 3 weeks before the world premiere, when we will have a more aggressive spoiler series that will then start to actually release a lot more additional cards. And I think that makes sense. I think that fully makes sense. I see that as being the best way forward, because the hype should be building to sell tickets to the world premiere, and then it should be building to sell tickets to the pre-releases. And there isn't really a need to build hype outside of those two events, right? It is okay to kind of take a step back a bit and then say, hey, let's build hype again. So that's my thoughts. You'll notice I'm still not on this spoiler list. I'm just, putting out there I would still like a spoiler. There are ninjas in this set. I promise to do, a lot of effort to make it fun, and to be very positive about the cards you give me, as I have not necessarily been in the past. I mean, my last preview, Hurl, was pretty excited, and we are seeing daggers coming back again. So, tip from the top, Hurl will probably be reprinted in this set. So I will have had a spoiler for this set, even if I don't have a new spoiler for this set. You see, we're playing the game. Okay, well, that's it from me. I just wanted to sort of talk through that. There's not much else happening in the Fab TCG land. A lot of speculation about what exactly this means. This is a really cool card. It's really cool. It's a 1 attack dagger. You can recycle it a bit with Fang's ability, or Syndra's ability. I think the really interesting thing is, when you throw this at someone, you get to lock in the chain link as having hit, which means that Mask of Momentum will work on the next attack action that hits. And so that doesn't confuse people. So if I attack for 1 with a weapon and it hits, and then I attack with another weapon or something else and that hits, and then I attack with the third link, say with a head jab for 3, and they block, what I can do is throw a dagger at them. The dagger means that the chain link itself has hit for 1. This is with something like Flick Knives, for example, which I think I have a copy of here. So I won't draw off Mask of Momentum, but I will keep the potentiality of drawing off Mask of Momentum live for my next attack action, because the chain link will have hit, but the attack action won't have hit. So Mask won't trigger, because that requires your 3rd or higher attack action to hit in a row. But it does force them to block with another card to prevent the Mask draw. So if I go, attack, head jab for 3, they block, I throw a dagger at them, and then I come in with a 4, I'm forcing another card block from hand, which is really efficient and kind of good use of this kind of thing. Okay, so that's kind of one sequence, how it's going to play out based on the current cards we have available. There are obviously other ways that this could play out when they spoil more legendaries. We see more ways that this works. So I'm really excited for this. I think this is a really exciting new direction for the game that was kind of hinted at in Outsiders, but not really explored. And I'm really kind of excited to see what the developers come up with next. As always, if you've liked this, please do like and subscribe to the channel. The majority of people who watch the videos are not subscribed, and I think 2025 is set to be a growth year for the channel. I am still, as I always do with best intentions, all things considered, I do still travel a lot for work. I am still committed to the idea of 1 video a week with supplementary videos for beginners and on interesting topics like new decks. I am aiming to, for every new set that comes out, putting out a first look deck list at every hero and some thought and analysis as to what they play. I am also doing my rating for new players guides, where I take every new hero that comes out and I say, is this the hero you should be picking up if you're a new player coming into this set? Those guides are really popular with new players, regularly getting thousands of watches, so that's really good. And I do have a few other big topics that I will be breaking down in more in-depth videos as we go in. So happy 2025 to you all. New Year's is going to be fantastic. We've got a lot to get done this year. It's going to be very exciting. There's going to be a lot of flesh and blood to play. Cannot wait for Pro Tour London. And if you want to meet up at the show, I'm going to try and put something together where people can come and meet me at the show, say hi, and just have a bit of a chat about the channel or whatever you're liking. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon.